And good morning, everybody. This is the time of the show where we sit and wait for the notifications to go out on YouTube and let everybody get in, get settled. I wait for the clock on the wall to stop with the Westminster chimes. Good grief, where'd that extra N come from? And finish signaling to me that we've hit the top of the hour. And when we have hit the top of the hour, as the heat kicks on, I'm sure you can hear that in the background, then I come over and find the magic button when we do hit the top of the hour and say, hey y'all, happy Sunday to you. Hope everybody's having a good day. Hope everybody can hear me. My streaming software did an update, and we'll see what happens here. It's going to be an adventure. So, yeah, we'll find out. We've got the normal 30 seconds of latency that YouTube likes to put into the videos. And we'll see if you're hearing a word that I'm saying, or am I sitting here talking to myself. Audio is great, says I.L. Peleg. Thank you very much. That's all I wanted to know. Oh, man. I I hit the button and I do a little sound check in my mic and watch the level meters bounce around. And there was nothing. And I'm like, oh, great. So I had to dive into my sources and get it all fixed up. Okay, so with that out of the way, good morning. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everything is okay. And I'm just going to kind of go through a little bit and talk about the Shop Shed project and a few other things. It is basically starting to come together, and I mean, I'm chomping at the bit here, but again, I'm kind of waiting on weather. I see we got Bob Lee's Wood Shop and other things. I'm probably speaking out of turn here. In my video, Bob Lee is the retired electrician who was basically my Obi-Wan on this project. He has walked me through the entire thing, from digging the trench to what to backfill it with, what size conduit, and he helped me discuss everything and kind of helped me with the rough out in every way. Bob is the man. I did not shout him out in the video for two reasons. Number one, you never gave me permission, Bob. And number two, I didn't want you to suddenly get flooded with emails and questions about other people's electrical projects. So do me a favor, folks. Please take it easy on Bob. Bob's a good guy, but he's retired. So I reiterate what I said in the video. Check with a local licensed electrician. But Bob, you're the man. My Obi-Wan as far as all things electrical are concerned. I mean, some of the questions he had to put up, you guys, it's just laughable. I mean, I've done electrical work in the past, but I was an electrician's helper. I bent conduit, pulled wires, and hooked up devices. I never laid anything out. I was never the decider on where the circuit was going to go, what the circuit was going to be, any of that stuff. So, like I said in the video, you can't know everything, so surround yourself with people who do know what you don't know. And Bob stepped up and really helped me out. So please don't flood his inbox. He's in the middle of a kitchen cabinet remodel, so, you know, what can I say? I did have a few questions in comments on the YouTube videos, and some of them were pertaining to the shop, some of them were pertaining to other things. And the big one that people wanted to know about was, I mentioned in the video that I had modeled up the shed framing in Sketchup, and people were fascinated with that. How did you learn that? How did you do that? And this, that, and the other. So let me start by saying, no, I don't plan on doing any SketchUp tutorial videos. If you want to learn how to use SketchUp, or now they call it SketchUp Make, Jay Bates, YouTuber extraordinaire, a few years ago did a series of videos on how to use SketchUp in woodworking, and they are fabulous. He really did a good job. They're much, much shorter than mine, and he's put them on a playlist over on his channel, and I'll link that. I should have done it already. I'll put a link to that playlist down in the description of this video as soon as we're finished live here. But let me go ahead and screen share with you and show you what I have. Basically, what I did was I just drew components, individual pieces and parts, laid out all my framing, drew all the 2x4s, and came up with a color code for electrical boxes that are going to be on one circuit. And I didn't draw any wiring in or anything, but for instance, these red boxes down here, that is the GFCI protected circuit right underneath my panel. And I have two exterior outlets here, and then the two gang interior outlets. And I put them on each circuit, color coded them for each circuit, with the exception of the 240 volt 30 amp here. I made them both the same color just simply because I was starting to run out of color choices. But you see what I'm working with here. The other question I had, another question, excuse me, was on the lean-to I plan on putting here, and why I didn't add the boxes to the shed framing, and is the spray foam insulation going to interfere with that? Not really, because when I build the lean-to, first of all, I don't know how big I'm going to go yet, so I don't know exactly where I'm going to place these outlets. I will have 120 power down here for the lean-to, and then I will have, it's not drawn in here yet, I'll have a light inside so that I can see what I'm doing inside the shed. So I don't know exactly where these boxes are going to be. When I get the lean-to framed, I will attach 2x2 framing right along with the 2x4 framing inside the shed. I'll attach 2x2 framing or 2x4 framing, whichever, and attach these boxes to it so that I have these boxes here. Meaning all I'm going to need to do is drill an access hole through the top plate, come down inside the insulation, and then drill an access hole from the back to be able to run that wire through. I won't need, the spray foam insulation won't interfere with the box placement or anything. So that's what I'm going to do there. Now, this piece hanging off here to the side is a part of this electrical chase that I'm putting in right here. I haven't done it yet. And what this is when I roughed in the wiring for these circuits here, rather than drill a bunch of holes in my roof rafters and turning that into Swiss cheese, I stapled the wiring to the rafters, to the surface of the rafters. And this is basically going to cover those wires. But the panel here, I have it drawn up as 1/2-inch plywood. That will be held on by screws that I can pull down and add more wire or change circuits. I just want to make everything accessible so that I can get to it and change wiring if I need to. And the other thing is this electrical box here that's floating in midair. That's something that I may or may not install. It's basically direct power for the lights on my gantry on my CNC. I may not install that. That's why it's hanging here in space. If I do install it, it'll go up on the rafter above the CNC router. So I have this drawn up. That represents the CNC. This represents a little workbench that I may put there, I may not put there. I haven't decided. But my table saw will sit up here in the front, and then the undisclosed additional tool that I'm not saying what it is yet, simply because I haven't bought it yet, and I don't want to, get my hopes up if it doesn't come to fruition. But it'll basically sit back here on wheels itself. And then, as I said, I'm going to make a 2-foot by 4-foot roll-around work table that I'm going to build to be about 1/8 of an inch shorter than my table saw, so I can use it as a outfeed table. And it'll do double and triple duty. Assembly table, sanding station, workbench, catch-all, everything else. So that's what I have set up so far for a layout, but all things change. It's kind of a fluid thing. I may go with that. I may not go with that. Everything just kind of, is fluid. It's in flux. Somebody else asked me about, it was in the middle of that question about the lean-to. They said that they wanted to see what kind of compressor I was looking at that would require a 40 amp circuit. And I'll go ahead and show that off. Again, this is all just me basically dreaming. I'm looking at an Eaton 5-gallon 2-stage single phase, 5 horsepower 80-gallon tank. And the technical specs on this, the running amperage is only 23.8 amps, but the startup amperage when it initially kicks on is 48 amps. So they recommend a 40 amp breaker. Now that 48 amps is only momentary, so it won't be enough to blow a 40 amp breaker, but it would be enough to trip a 30 amp breaker, which the 23.8 running amperage, it would be just fine on a 30 amp circuit. But because of that startup, they recommend the 40 amp breaker. So this is way overkill for my needs. But again, I want to do this one time and do it right. So if that means getting a almost 600-pound compressor, then so be it. I want to be able to paint and sandblast without overtaxing the little single stage oilless compressor that I'm using now. So I figure if it's worth building, it's worth overbuilding. If it's worth engineering, it's worth over engineering. Yes, it's a lot of money, but buy once, cry once, then it's over and done with. So that's on my wish list. And I figure if I'm a real good boy and get all of the projects done here around the house that I need to get done, maybe Santa will leave one under the Christmas tree this year. We'll see. Dave Pingle has an excellent question. Are your dust collector and compressor going to cheese off my neighbors? Maybe, but this corner of the lot is well away from everybody. It's well away from the houses that are around me. There are 3 houses in this corner, and all of the houses are further out. This is the back corner of everybody's yards where the 4 corners meet. And I do plan on doing a bunch of soundproofing for especially the dust collector. The compressor will come on and then shut off. But I do plan on doing some soundproofing for it. I don't need to... The lean-to is not going to be a heated space. So the insulation I'm going to put in there is going to focus on soundproofing. Now, another thing about this Eaton compressor that I'm looking at, let's see, it's listed here somewhere. The noise rating on it is 73 decibels, which is very low. My wife's bagpipes are louder than that. And in fact, they call this a whisper quiet compressor. Now, I know that's an easy claim to make. But in my experience, these Eaton compressors are much, much quieter. And I'm running, like I said, a little... I want to say it's 3.5 horse single stage oilless compressor now that sounds like it's as loud as a chainsaw. So, and it's right up here at the end of the driveway. I can hear it in the house when it kicks on. So, we shall see. I mean, I'm going to try to do as much soundproofing as I can, but hopefully it doesn't cheese off the neighbors. And another benefit in hardwiring it all in is when I leave for the night, when I leave the shop for the night, I can just turn off that breaker and it won't kick on at dark 30 in the morning. So, we'll see what happens. But hopefully, no, I don't cheese off neighbors. Let's see here. Unique Woodcrafting says, if the undisclosed tool is either a chop saw or radial arm saw, I would like to offer a suggestion from my experience. No, it's neither of those. I do have a miter saw, but I plan on trying to arrange things to where... okay, this is like a castle to me right now because of the size of the shed that I've been working in. But at the end of the day, it's still only 12 by 16. So everything is going to have to stay on wheels and be portable. And some of my tools are going to have to be benchtop tools. I have a friend who is selling a 6-inch, it's a Grizzly 6-inch jointer. That's a really good deal. But it is huge, and there's no way I can put that jointer in this shop. I would need another shop. So I'm not going to be able to do that. I'm going to have to stick with my little 4-inch benchtop jointer that I can take out and set up out in the yard under an easy up and move on, Michael Johnston saying, is it a router table? Are we allowed to guess? You're allowed to guess all you want, but I will neither confirm nor deny. So, it's just something that I have it's stuck in the back of my brain. If I talk about it too much, I feel like I'm going to jinx myself. So I just hush and not say a word, and then report after the fact, you know? Okay, Mac Holman says, I have the same compressor, but the gas version from my blacksmith shop. Love it. You won't regret buying it. I've heard nothing but good news about Eaton compressors. I've not heard anything bad about them at all. I mean, so I know that I know that there are other compressors out there under a different name that are very similar in manufacturer. I hesitate to say that they're made by the same company, but one of the things that impressed me about Eaton is their warranty is bumper to bumper, not prorated, and it's 5 years. Most warranties on big equipment like that is prorated, so that as things start to wear, they'll give you a percentage back. Like 3 years in, if you lose a pressure switch, they depreciate that pressure switch and will give you a certain amount of credit on a replacement. Eaton doesn't do that. It's 5 years, everything. If the pressure switch goes in 4 years, they replace it. That's it. So that impressed me. And they use name brand components too. It's not Joe and Eddie's machine shop that made the pulley. I mean, they use cast iron pulleys on their motors. It's not some aluminum thing off of a swamp cooler or out of your washing machine. So, I'm impressed with the build quality, and like I said, I've yet to hear anything bad about Eaton's. So, Michael Johnston said, with the Gatton CNC, you can build a router table. True, I could. I have a little benchtop router table that I'm not really happy with, so I might build another benchtop router table, but I will not have room to add a router table to it. So we'll see. I mean, I'm also not going to fill the place up with cabinets. I am. This is going to be an opportunity for a number of things. Over the past few years of using the CNC, I've been taking notes. I take notes on everything, but after taking notes on what is working for me and what is not working for me, I'm going to design and build my own computer workstation for it. And it's going to go up against the wall underneath the light switches. And I'm going to have to make it to custom width and length. But the thing about it is just I'm going to incorporate a few things that I need that I don't have, and I'm going to eliminate a few things that I have that I don't need. So I'll be designing and building my own computer workstation, and I'll put out videos on that. We'll see if I make plans available or files available. I don't know. For those of you who've never done it, cabinetry is basically nothing but an overglorified big box. If you can make a box, you can make a cabinet. Yes, there are rabbits and dados, or rebates if you're not in the U.S., that a normal, like a jewelry box, wouldn't have, but it's just location, measuring the thickness of your material, and you're all set. The other thing is I'm going to be making a couple of wall cabinets, but I'm not going to cover the top of the walls with tool boards or things like that. Part of what I want to do with this assembly table is make a drawer bank on one side to store commonly used tools, and a small tool holder on the other side where I can put sanders and keep sandpaper, etc. Then on one end of it, I want to put a power strip where I can keep sanders plugged in and just plug the power strip into the wall, because you can only use one sander at a time. And on the other end, I want a paper dispenser so I can run, butcher paper up over the tabletop and go from there. I'm not going to do any fancy downdraft or uh, dust collection within the assembly table itself, because I don't want to dedicate it to that. I want to be able to use the work table. So there may be plans for that, there may not be. So basically, those are my plans so far. And if I've learned anything from this experience, it is that the only thing that stays the same is that everything is going to change. So it's it's fluid. Let's see. We got a couple more questions here. Terry W says, "Is VCarve desktop sufficient for my hobby CNC, or should I bite the bullet and get VCarve Pro?" If you go over to Vectric's website, you will find a link to product comparisons, and you can see the difference between the VCarve desktop and VCarve Pro. The main difference is the size of your cutting area. VCarve desktop was made for smaller CNCs that don't have a huge cutting area. And that's why it's limited to, I believe it's 25 by 25. I may be wrong. It may be 24 by 24. But it was made for the smaller ones, the first generations of Xcarves and Shapeokos and those type of machines. They have since expanded those brands so that their cutting area is larger. But it was basically made for those sizes. So if your cutting area is bigger than 25 inches by 25 inches, then your desktop will do you fine. Now, the other thing to take in consideration is, well, there's other things. There are other differences too, like gadget support. If you use like a dovetail gadget or the oval gadget or any of those, VCarve desktop, you cannot load and use gadgets. That's VCarve Pro only. But one of the better things about Vectric software is it's an incremental thing. If you buy VCarve desktop and get used to it and you like it, and decide later on you want to upgrade to VCarve Pro, you can do so for the difference in price. You don't pay full-blown retail again. So, and then if you later decide you want to upgrade to Aspire, it's the difference in price between whichever version of VCarve you have and the price of Aspire. So they make that a lot easier. I know it's a big chunk of change. It's a lot of money. And when you first get into it, you'll be thinking, man, this was a lot of money. Man, this was a lot of money. But after using it for 6 to 8 months, you'll wonder how they sell it so cheap, because I'll be honest with you, I just don't have the problems that I see people using other software having. I just don't have those problems. So, excuse me. Let's see. So VCarve Desktop and VCarve Pro, head over to Vectric's website and check out the differences between those two versions and decide for yourself. But do an honest assessment of how you plan on using the software and how you plan on using your CNC router. If you think you're going to need a something like for a 4-foot by 4-foot cutting area, then you might want to go ahead and go for Pro from the get-go. But if you have a smaller machine, I mean, there are ways around practically anything. I won't say everything, but just kind of weigh your options, but take an honest assessment as to uh, how you're going to use your machine and how you're going to use your software, and make your decision for that. So, and Chris Leach is correct. 24 by 24 is the cutting area, and you can tile your jobs to get bigger pieces, to cut bigger pieces. VCarve Pro is basically unlimited. You can go as big as your machine physically is, and the same with the Spire. Richard Poulin says, what about your air-cooled spindle? You thinking of buying how many amps? They recommend a 30 amp circuit for that spindle, and that's simply because of the load that's being placed on it. And I checked with my guru Dave Gatton, and that's what he installed for his water-cooled spindle. I'm going to go with an air-cooled spindle because we have such a temperature swing here. We have gone from everywhere from 0 degrees or below zero up to the hottest temperature I personally have experienced here, 0 Fahrenheit to 112 Fahrenheit. So I don't want to be playing around with coolant. I don't want to be messing around with antifreeze. I don't want to heat that shop 24/7. So I'll just go with an air-cooled spindle and be done with it. So, let's see. Chris Leach is asking, how heavy is an average Gatton CNC? That depends on how heavy you build it. That's impossible to answer simply because there is no average size. It's completely customizable. You can make it 12 inches wide and however long you can find lead screws for. Or you can make them, I've seen them 60 inches by 60 inches. So it's hard to say, how heavy the average Gatton CNC is because there is no average Gatton CNC. So they are heavier than aluminum, but they're not as heavy as steel. I know that's not a whole heck of a lot of help, but I'll put it to you this way. Mine is outside dimensions, including the motors hanging off the back. Mine is 52 inches deep by 56 inches wide, and it's going to take 4 of us to carry it. I've got to knock out the back wall of the old shed because I'm not taking it apart. Knock out the back wall of the old shed, and 4 of us are going to carry it into the new shop. So I have to build a ramp up into that after I move a pile of dirt. But you know how it is. So Michael Johnson says, Mrs. Mark Lindsay is soon to be a workshop widow. Oh, it's so cute how you say is soon to be. Just between you, me, and the fly on the wall, Michael, I think she can't wait to get rid of me. So I'll leave her alone. Let's see. Grant wants to know, a VCarve Pro question. Is it possible to move a rectangle and make it snap to a guide? Yes, it is. I'm not creating the rectangle with the guide in place. Yes, it is. Let me bring up a Spire, and we'll do a screen share there. I should be screen sharing. Yes. Okay, and this works identically in VCarve Pro. You just have to make sure you have geometry snapping and smart snapping on. These two icons right up here at the top. If they're blue, they're on. If they're white, they're off. So make sure they're both blue. You can drag a guide over to, let's say, right there. Come over, draw a rectangle, close that, and then you can put it in move and transform mode, and you can either drag it by the center, you can drag it by a corner, or you can drag it by an edge. So I'll just drag it by an edge. I get that 4-way arrow, click, drag over, and snap right to that line. So, and then I can bring another guide down here, go into move and transform mode, and I can grab So yes, and you can do that with any shape. It doesn't have to be a rectangle. You can grab a circle by the center and snap down here to the guide, or come down here and grab hold of an edge and drag it up and snap it to that guide. So yes, so long as you have geometry snapping and smart snapping turned on, you sure can. So hopefully that answered answered your question. So let me throw something out there for audio went robotic again. Oh boy, and I do not understand what is going on. I don't understand what's going on with audio. Let me try something here, just to see. Let's see. Did that do anything? I turned it off and turned back on my source. I don't know if that helped any at all, but here lately, after about a half hour, it wants to robot again. And is that better, or is that still the same? Let me know, please. It's not any better. Okay, well, let me... plug in the cable. Let's see, is that any better? Otherwise, I'd have to climb back over the back of the table, and nobody wants to watch that. So, let's see. Yeah, it's the same. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and shut down then. I apologize for this. I really got to figure this out because this is the only application this happens in. So, oh, it's good now? Okay, all right. Well, I don't know what's going on. I really have no idea. This is the only application this happens in. It doesn't happen on any of my streaming software. It doesn't happen in a Hangout or with Skype or Facebook Messenger calls or anything like that. I don't get it. Okay. Let's see. Hopefully you got all of that, Grant, that yes, you can drag around your any kind of geometry and snap it to a guide so long as you have smart snapping and geometry snapping turned on. So hopefully that answers that. Now, okay, Chris Leach says, I'm 15 minutes behind. But, Mark, if you're upgrading to a heavier machine, you're going to have to address your floor given the cantilevered construction. Yes, that is a concern, and it is a fairly heavy machine. But I'm not finished with everything that's going on. I do plan on putting some stabilization outside around the perimeter, and then closing that in to keep critters out from under the house, or as it were. You know, that it's something around here. We're kind of sort of in the city. I'm in a residential neighborhood. We don't have a lot of wildlife out here. You know, the occasional mouse, but mainly it's cats. And I do not want cats getting underneath my shed and taking up residence there for a multitude of reasons. So, yeah, there's going to be... okay, did the audio mess up again or no? But yeah, I do plan on bracing it underneath on the sides. So, okay, let's see. Let me get back in here. and see if I missed any questions. Let's see. Chris Leach wants to know, does everyone know about Michael Mazalik's content on YouTube? No, they don't, and they should. Let me throw that out there. If you are not subscribed to Michael Mazalik here on the YouTubes, you're really doing yourself a disservice. Now, he has started a series, and I believe you're 2 videos in, maybe 3 videos in. Michael, I don't remember right off the top of my head, but he's doing 3D modeling for beginners. And this is in Aspire. And he's gone through creating a component, and he just recently released a video on Wednesday about tilt and fade. And it's really a good series. So if you have Aspire, get over to Michael Mazalik's YouTube channel and subscribe. If you've got VCarve Pro or VCarve Desktop or Cut 2D, get over there and subscribe. He's got a lot of content over there. He doesn't post on a regular schedule like he posted last. Boy, when did you put out lesson 1, Michael? I don't remember. He'll go 2 or 3 videos a week, then he won't post for a week or 2 as he's making more videos. But that's cool. That's great. But yes, do catch up with his modeling videos and just check out his channel. I'll put a link in the description of this video as soon as I'm done live here. So I don't know that he wants me to give out all of his particulars, but Michael knows what he's doing. Trust me on this. He knows what he's doing. And he's very good as well. He's not as dry as I am. He's a little bit more personality to his videos. So, but do check him out. Eric Girth wants to know, are you looking at flip top stations? Not at this time, but again, that may change. I may decide to go ahead and flip over, make a tabletop where I can flip over a planer or something like that. I'm not sure. Let's see. Chris Leach. Yeah, all things YouTube. Matt Haas, another great channel if you're interested in YouTube behind the scenes and inside baseball stuff, says his $360 mic does the same thing, does something similar from time to time, and when it does, it's at the 1 hour timestamp. Mine seems to be happening about 30 to 35 minutes, somewhere in there. So, I don't know. But evidently, unplugging and plugging the USB cable back in worked. So, it's one of those. Did you shut it off? Did you unplug it and plug it back in again? Yep. Okay, let's see. I'm trying to go back and okay. Okay, Harvey Matya says, when you hide a layer, how do you unhide it? Okay, you hide a layer. Jonathan W. jumped in. Great to see me. Great to see you, Jonathan. How's the weather? Cold, wet, rainy. It's Southern Oregon. I mean, we don't tan out here. We rust. That's just all there is to it. You know, it's it's a case of every year in this state, 6 people fall off bicycles and drown. So, you just got to wear your water wings. So let's see here. I was going to get into hiding and unhiding a layer. Let's go over here to Aspire. And right now I only have one layer on this. It's up here in the layer manager, okay? You can click on the layer, and I only have one layer up here. So let's go ahead and we'll move this to a layer by selecting it, right click, move to layer, new layer. We'll call that okay. Then we'll select this, right click, move to layer, new layer, okay. So I now have 3 layers. They're controlled by the light bulbs here. You turn off the light bulb to turn off a layer. You turn on the light bulb to turn the layer back on. So I can turn all of these off and then do something else out here. And I'm not interfering with any of these down here. Then I can come back, turn the layers on, and there we go. Now, the thing to watch out for when you're working with layers, you'll notice this one is in bold. The lettering is bold. These two, they're not. The bold means an active layer. That's the layer you're drawing on. Anything that I do now, down here, like adding this rectangle, is on layer 1. If I select this layer and make it active, anything I do down here is on that layer. So if I turn off this layer now, both of those disappear. If I turn off the active layer, the text turns red to let me know I'm not working on layer 1. It's shut off. So, or excuse me, I'm working on layer 1, but it's not visible. So if I shut off layer 1, try to draw something here, it turns the layer back on. So, I know you only asked, how do you turn on and off a layer? That's how you do it. Turn on and off the light bulbs, and there you go. So, hopefully that answers that question. Let's see. Let me cruise down the list here. Chris Leach says, I had sticker shock when looking at the upgrade considering the conversion in Canadian dollars. Yeah, but you know, it's a case of, again, if you're doing this as a home hobby, it is a lot of money. It really is. If you're doing this as a business, remember 2 things. It's a business expense. Tools are never an expense, they're an investment. Another thing, it's deductible. Third thing, that's part of your overhead. You may have to bump prices up a little bit, but you should be able to recover that upgrade price fairly soon. I mean, within the first couple of projects. And if not, it gets prorated out over the course of however many projects you do. So, let's see. I don't know who Garrett is talking to about Gold Beach, but no, I'm not on the coast. I'm near Medford. Okay, Joe Wood Studio IA, newbie question. Could you explain the difference in uses of a ball nose, tapered ball nose, and plunge with corner radius bits? When are each used? I have a video on the difference between tapered ball nose and regular ball nose. I will put a link to it in the description box of this video as soon as we're done live here. As far as quarter round, I imagine you're talking about a roundover bit, a corner radius bit. I have not done a video on that. Yes, I did do a video on that. I take that back. And I'll put a link to that video in the description of in the description below as soon as we're done live here. Let's see. Do you have a video on layers and their use? I That's one of those questions that doesn't have a single answer, because um, layers are used for multiple things. So no, I don't have a video on layers and their use, except I have a couple of videos on using layers to help with the with closing vectors that are stubborn about joining. It's transferring the vectors you want to join to a different layer and using that back and forth. Basically, the way to think of layers is, imagine you have a drawing of the floor plan of your house on graph paper, and you want to start placing furniture on graph paper. Imagine taking layers of clear plastic or acetate and laying them over the top, so that I can take a red pencil and draw the sofas, then move that. Then I can take the next layer and draw chairs and flip that. And then take the next layer, be tables. So that's how to use them. You fold them all back down over the thing. You have a picture of your house, but you can take each individual layer off to get back to just the floor plan, or just see what you want to see. That's basically the way to use layers. So if you have two objects that sit on top of one another, you can take one of those objects and put it on another layer, turn that layer off so you only see this one, or vice versa. Turn that layer off so you only see this one. That's basically the way to think of layers. So, all right, I'm going to have to end this pretty soon because I don't want to interfere with Mike Mazalik's video that's coming up pretty quick. Let's see. Do I work with Oromask? What's your thought when using spray paint over it? I have not yet worked with Oromask. I have some. I'm going to be doing it on a project. I just haven't used it yet. And my CNC is still covered up with various building supplies for the shop shed. So that's probably not going to happen for a while yet. So, sorry. Tommy Jaskolski says, how do you base your price? There's a lot that goes into that, and that's good for a video on its own. I will probably be doing a video down the road on that. So basically, there's a lot of things that go into it, but in a nutshell, let me say this. You'll find a million theories on 1,000 different methods of basing your prices. The one that people don't take into consideration is look at your market. Now, and this is the last thing I'm going to say, and we're going to end after this. You have to look at the area that you're living in. If people are paying $60 for a cutting board, you're probably not going to get 95 for them. Then again, if you're not looking, you're not going to try to compete with the big box stores. Don't even try, because they're going to win every time. They buy 1,000 of something where you make one. So don't try to compete with the big box stores. If you are going to make and sell something, you're looking for a intermediate to high-end buyer and price it accordingly. But you'll need to look at the market. For instance, case in point, when we were stationed over in Hawaii in the Army, there was a store in Honolulu that had everything. I mean, they had everything from some of the small handmade pieces. It was an I hesitate to say an artist's store. Artists sold their goods through this store, and it was in a pretty high-end area. They had everything from small jewelry boxes up to the biggest thing they had in there was a life-size, and I do mean life-size, hand-carved rocking horse. The thing was over my head, that tall, made out of maple. And it was, you could see where he had laminated pieces of maple together and then carved out a rocking horse. Now, this was 1997, 1998 when we saw this rocking horse, and the price of it was $10,000. It would be nice if he got $10,000 for it. How long it took him to get that $10,000 is anyone's guess. So you can price anything any way you want. How fast do you want to move it? And what kind of reputation do you want to get as a seller? You can price anything any way you want. But look at your local market. Don't try to compete with the big box stores. Value your labor. And that includes the time it took to draw a design. Value your labor. And charge accordingly. You know, if you want to give certain people a friends and family discount, go for it. I do. You know, if my niece comes up and wants to pay me to do something, she gets a cut rate. If a guy down the road I've never met before wants me to come and do something, he doesn't get a cut rate. So certain things I'll do for people for free. Most things I won't. It just depends. You know, value your time, value your intellect, your skills, and your knowledge. And the materials and everything else, they'll figure themselves out. Now, another thing is, when people ask me how to price, if somebody comes up to me and asks me, how much would this project cost? My first question to them is, what were you looking to spend? You would be surprised, or what is your budget for the project? You would be surprised people are willing to pay more than you think they are, especially if it's something custom. If I think I can make something for and sell it for $400, I let them tell me what they have to spend. If they come back and they say, well, I was looking to spend $200. Okay, I know what I can do and give them for $200. And it may not be what they want. It probably won't be. But if they may come back and say, well, I'd like to keep it under $500. In which case, now we have plenty of working room. And say, well, I can deliver this to you this way, that way, and the other way for $400. Is that acceptable? Okay. And there we go. So, I don't know. That was a lot of stuff at one time. But anyway, yeah, we'll get off of that. So, I'll probably be doing a video maybe later on this year, I don't know, about pricing and how I price my items. Your mileage may vary. You may not do anything the way I do it, because all my prices are flexible. I'm willing to work with people, but I'm not in business. I'm not here to try to feed my family. So that's something else to take into consideration. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Mike Mazalik's video will be coming on in about an hour. I made a mistake there. I will put a link to his channel down in the description box of this video as soon as I'm done here. Please go over and check him out, and hope to see you in the chat over at his video. Another thing I have already placed in the chat, in the description of this video is the big Vectric live event coming up Tuesday, 2 days away, that will feature yours truly and a project I've never done before. It is probably one of my most requested projects, and you'll have to see how we did it because my CNC is not accessible. So tune in for that. Hope to see you there. That'll be, let's see, I got this wrong on my video. That's why there was a jump edit. That'll be 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, Tuesday on Vectric's YouTube channel. There's a link to it in the description box below. So I hope to see everybody there. I hope to see everybody over at Mike Mazalik's video in about an hour. Everybody take care. And thank you for all the comments, all the questions. And thank you to the folks who have been ordering merch through the merchandise shelf down below and over on my website, marklindsaycnc.com, sponsored by Harneal Media. Yes, you, Steve, down in the description box below. And thank you to the generous donations. You guys are, I have the best viewers on YouTube, and the generosity of you folks is just overwhelming. I want to say a deep, sincere thank you. Hope everybody has a happy Valentine's Day with that special someone in your life. And if you forgot, it's not too late. It's never too late. Get out in the shop, make some chips, go do something cool. Thank you, and have a great Sunday.